Welcome to 25, brought to you by Surrey County Cricket Club. We're here, we've made it. 5-1. We will be taking you through the panel's choice for the 5 best Surrey men's players of the last 25 years. I'm sat here at the Oval. My name's Jon Surtees, with Mark Church, with Yaz Rana, with Kirstie White, and we will be taking you through 5-1. And let me tell you, you don't want to miss this. There's going to be some names in the next 15-20 minutes that you will have heard of, that you will have spent hours and hours and days of your life with, and these people are going to have some opinions, and I think you're going to be interested to hear them. Before we get started, let me just tell you that Surrey membership for the 2026 season is still available. KeirOval.com/membership for all the details you need there. It's going to be a hell of a season for Surrey women next season, playing on all 3 fronts, in the Vitality Blast, in the 50 over One Day Cup, and also in the T20 County Cup. Incredible debut season for this current Surrey women's team in the new professional era, taking home the Vitality Blast, just losing out in the final of the T20 County Cup, reaching the knockout stages of the 50 over as well. They're going to be looking to go one better in the 50 over. They're going to be looking to go one better in the T20. They're going to be looking to retain that Vitality Blast Championship. It's going to be a hell of a season. There's also a Women's World Cup coming up next year here at the Keir Oval, England's last group game and the 2 semi-finals. And tickets are still available in the pavilion for Surrey members. If you become a Surrey member today, you can then go ahead and get tickets for those Women's World Cup games in the pavilion here at the Keir Oval, which will be special. KeirOval.com/membership for everything you need there. We've reached the top 5. On with the 25. We've made it. We're at the top 5 of the 25. 5-1. Coming up. Happy Christmas, everybody, as we sit here at the Keir Oval. The snow on the outfield, Father Christmas, has just passed over the JM Finn stand, and we are sat here taking you through the top 5 Surrey men's players of the 21st century. Number 5, straight into it, Saqlain Mushtaq.
What I'd say about Saqlain is that he was so good that I wonder almost if we give a little bit too much credit to Adam Hollyoak. He was almost a cheat code.
You know who wouldn't disagree with that? I don't think Adam Hollyoak would disagree with that.
I'm being facetious, but Saqlain was a cheat code at that period of time. He was up there with the very best bowlers in the world, full stop. And his record speaks for itself: 424 first-class wickets for Surrey at 21, 33 fifers, and 10 10-wicket match hauls as well. Totally phenomenal, and a cheat code.
Yeah, no, and hadn't seen anything like it. That was the other thing,
right,
with the Dizzer as well. And the apparently batting against Saki was so intimidating because you actually heard the ball spinning. You heard the as the ball came down with Salisbury at the other end. You had the perfect combination, really, those two, didn't you? And I think probably why Saki's so high up in the list is that, again, we've talked about impact. He had such an impact and came back and wasn't the bowler he was when he came back to Surrey, but still the interest in that Saqlain Mushtaq was back again. And batting-wise as well, Saki's the only player I've ever seen who would play a cover drive and it would go over mid-wicket for 6, and play a pull shot and it would go over extra cover for 6. He was an extraordinary batter as well, but at that time a one-off, complete one-off.
When I say he's a cheat code, I'm just going to tell you some of his numbers in individual seasons. Okay, I know some of these are before the turn of the century. So in 1998, 63 wickets at 17. In 1999, 58 wickets at 11. In 2000, a championship-winning year, 66 wickets at 15. 2001, 62 wickets at 20. 2002, another championship-winning year, 53 wickets at 25. So,
and what you notice with that is extraordinary average, but that average is slightly going up. That was because people were beginning to get a bit more used to Saki, but at the start, not seen anything like him. And it was revolutionary what he did.
There's a generation of Surrey players who face Saki in the nets. Some of them claim they could pick the Doosra because they faced it in the nets enough, and they claim there was a tiny tell before the Doosra, but I don't think anyone else could. Just one of the greats. And I think again we've talked before about this being the 21st century list, and some of those numbers you just brought up were in the late 90s, but again, one of the eras of this club in this century was winning those championships at the start of that time. And you said before when we were talking about Monty Morkel, you don't win championships if you don't take 20 wickets, and that is exactly what he was doing. So I think number 5 on the top 25 Surrey players of the 21st century. It's a low number, but it's a great player. Number 4, we move into a different era. I'm going to allow Churchy to begin on this one because number 4, RJ, Rory Burns.
Yeah, and people have heard me drone on and on about RJ Burns. They know my thoughts on RJ Burns. I just think with Rory, when he comes into the Surrey side, he's batting at 7 and keeping wicket. Then all of a sudden they need an opener. He goes into open. The first ball he faces from Glen Chappell in Championship cricket as an open knocks his off stump out the ground, and he walks off laughing. And it was at that moment you thought to yourself, yeah, he's going to be all right. He's going to be fine. And then he's done what he has done. And as a captain, he's won 4 championships now. I don't think it's any great surprise that when he wasn't with England and he was there for the whole season, that Surrey won in 18, 22, 23 and 24. Probably, I think I'm right in saying 25 this year is the only one where he hasn't won it, where he's been here the whole time. His number of runs is exceptional. He scores his runs when it matters. He doesn't say a huge amount, but he has the respect of that dressing room. And he's a bloody good opening batsman. He's a bloody good captain. And I think, again, I was sort of talking about he's got a gate named after him. Whether that was something he always wanted when he started out in his career, I don't know. But
you joke on that, and I agree. But that gate will be there now for as long as this ground is here. And Rory Burns at the age of 80 will be arriving at the Keir Oval, as it probably hopefully still will be then. Shout out to Keir, and walking through the Burns Gate. And that is an extraordinary legacy for a ground of the history and of the scale of the Oval to have a gate with your surname on it.
That's what's interested me with him as well, is that if you at the start of his career had said that's going to be the bloke that goes on to captain Surrey to 4 championship titles, score the amount of runs he does, scored 3 Test hundreds for England, it wouldn't have been him. You would have been talking Jason Roy. We've talked about Jamie Smith. We've talked about Ollie Pope. But he has just turned himself into a very, very, very good cricketer and a very, very good captain. And everybody knows how fond I am of the bloke. And I'm sure he'll score a lot more runs and probably win another couple of championships.
He's also the only player in the top 10 who's actually currently playing still. Every other player has been was a seasoned veteran. Rory Burns has got many years left in his playing career, and he is already in the top 10. So when we do this in 5 years' time, surely win a few more championships. He's got to be challenging for number 1, and he's probably one of the only players in this entire 25 that have opened the batting, taken 200 dismissals with the gloves, turned his arm over a few times, and captained the team. How many players can honestly say they've done that and won 4 championships?
You know what? I think he'll be the most delighted you talked about him turning his arm over a few times out of all of that.
Yeah.
Well, I think you said if we do it in a few years' time, he might be number 1. I think a lot of people listening to this would have had him at number 1 now. To captain a club to 4 championship titles, very, very few players in the history of the county championship have done that. And we talk about the runs he scores. For me, it's the consistency. I think there was a period before he played for England where he didn't get enough credit because the England conversation tended to focus on whoever was top of the list that particular year. But he was always there or thereabouts. The number of seasons in which he has averaged 40-ish plus, very few players.
Well, 2018, when he did, and finally he gets on the tour to Sri Lanka, he averaged 68.94. He scored 1,241 championship runs, and Surrey won the title. So again, that just
what can you ask for?
Yeah, exactly.
Nothing.
He encapsulates the player he is.
Number 3. Now, number 3, this is controversial, but I think when I explain the reasoning for number 3, I think this is it. So for me, number 3 is going to be a joint. It's going to be a joint entry. So Alec Stewart at number 3 and Graham Thorpe. I think I'm going to put them joint at number 3 because both players are extraordinary servants of this club. However, when you look at this list, and we're talking about the 21st century here, both players would have played more cricket for England in the 2000s than they would have done for Surrey. If neither of them had, for whatever reason, played for England and played county championship cricket for Surrey in the early 2000s, I dread to think how many runs they'd have scored. But between the two of them, played a reasonable amount for Surrey in the early part of the decade. Obviously, have gone on and achieved amazing things after their career as well. Thorpe as a coach with Surrey and then with England, and Alex Stewart speaks for itself as director of cricket. But yeah, Churchy, I think Stewie and Thorpe at number 3.
Yeah, I'll start with Graham, one of the best players that England have ever produced. And in an England team that weren't winning a lot, he always scored runs, and from a Surrey perspective as well, just a wonderful player. And I think, I think people now, due to what's happened and having lost Graham at such a young age, I think people are remembering now what a player Graham Thorpe was. So I always felt a bit for his last Test innings. It was 100 in his last Test innings, and then England went with Kevin Peterson in the 2005 series, and the rest is history. But I think the innings that everybody will remember from an England perspective with Graham was here, 2003, that Oval Test match here where Trescothick got his double 100 and he made his 100 as well. I think that's the one that everybody remembers.
You talk about Thorpe and Surrey. I just want 2001 county championship. Graham Thorpe, 2 matches, 2 innings, 180 runs, top score of 148. Next season, 2002, again, 2002, Graham Thorpe. Hang on, my laptop has just gone to the wrong window here. 2002, Graham Thorpe, 4 matches, 8 innings, 274 runs, highest score of 143. It just shows he comes.
It was,
yeah.
If you're not playing for England, you come back and play for Surrey, and you score a stack of runs. And
you go on to win the championship.
He was a wonderful player, wasn't he? He really
absolutely
was.
Brilliant. His record against brilliant Test teams was superior to all of his peers in that England team. A lot of massive names in English cricket, but Thorpe was talent-wise, I think, top of the list.
And many of the names that we have previously discussed on the list in the previous 4 episodes that we've been doing, people like Rory Burns, Jason Roy particularly, who came through that Surrey second 11 in the early part of the 2010s, would point to the influence that Thorpe had when he was there, when he was with the club for a couple of years as second 11 coach, and spending day in, day out with those guys, going around places like Banstead and Guildford and Reigate and the second 11 grounds that Surrey were playing at with that young team, and the influence that his character and the way that he saw the game had on those players, who would go on and have extraordinary Surrey careers that have got them on that list as well, which I think is a good way of segueing into Stewie, because Stewie, similarly to Thorpe, one of the best players in the country, early 2000s, didn't play that much for Surrey. Much of his Surrey greatness came through the 80s and the 90s, but you couldn't. And we're talking about cricketers as players here. You couldn't have this list without mentioning Alex Stewart, Kirstie. You've been here as a player for most of the time. Stewie's been director of cricket for the men's side of things. What's your take on Stewie?
Oh, I think he is the god of Surrey cricket now, isn't he? You just have to
sitting on his little cloud.
Yeah, absolutely. But you walk and you can feel his presence in the ground. And for me, he was my idol growing up. He was the icon. the player that I aspired to be. So as soon as I got the opportunity to be here, even now, if I pass him, in one of the corridors, I literally just kind of stop and stare. And he's that.
It's like if Darth Vader was a goodie.
yeah, but it's not. It's not because he's not earned it either. The runs that he's scored over his career, and actually the commitment that he's made to the club itself, and the way that he has developed players in our youth system and players that have come through to the signings that we've made. And we spoke about some of the overseas players, but I think what you've got to realise actually about some of the overseas signings that we've made is, yes, they've been signed to come in and make an impact on the team winning games, but actually it's more than that. They've been signed because they're going to mentor our younger players, and actually they have a wider role to play than just going out and winning games.
Yeah, you talked about Burns Gate. Obviously, Alex Stewart Gate sitting there right next door to Burns Gate. I think that future cricket scholars, cricket historians might enjoy the fact that you got Burns Gate just to the left of Alex Stewart Gate. And as Stewie himself is pleased to say, to get to his dad's pavilion you have to walk through his gate. So if you think about that, I mean it's a funny thing to say, but in and of itself, there's an incredible truth about what the Stewart family have given to Surrey over the years. So yeah, Alex Stewart and Graham Thorpe, two of the best of mates, sitting there together at number 3. Number 2, we're really getting down to the brass tacks of it now. Number 2, Martin Bicknell. Who wants to go first to Martin Bicknell?
Well, I guess a question for Churchy, because I think our younger listeners, younger viewers, wouldn't have seen loads of Bicknell, and he was part of an immensely successful Surrey side who had players, many of whom had more significant international careers than Bicknell. But again, if you think about what I suppose, stereotype of what conditions are like here at the Keir Oval, it's been a difficult place to take wickets as a seamer. And Bicknell took so many wickets so consistently for such a long period of time. It gives us a sense of what he was like as a bowler to watch.
Before Churchy does that, just really quick, yes, to back up your point, I just want to say Bicknell, 2,060 wickets, 500 runs. 2001, 72 wickets, 748 runs. 2002, 34 wickets, 258 runs. 2003, 50 wickets. 2004, 43 wickets. And in both those years, over 400 runs.
He first got picked in the England squad 10 years before that as well. So
yeah,
amazing longevity.
Overall first class average for the club, 25.7 with the ball.
Well, we talked about Dan Worrell's skill set. Bicknell's the most skillful bowler I've seen, and just relentless in what he did. And in any conditions, he would pick wickets up, and he spearheaded the attack. He was very clever as a bowler. He would work a player out very, very quickly. If you had a weakness, he would find it straight away. And you don't take over 1,000 first-class wickets if you can't bowl. And he could bowl. He really was, as I say, the most skillful bowler I've seen. Live, I suppose, that I've been at games and seen them bowling. He could bat as well. Very, very good. Very, very good batter. Grumpy old Watson.
Grumpy man.
As well. But as we're doing this century as well, you think about it, and Surtees just read those stats. He picked up that 1,000 first class wicket. Matthew Dennington, it was. Matthew Dennington. And he got back into the England side in that test match we were just talking about. 6 wickets in that test, 4 for in the second innings when England went on to win that test match. So he was doing it all the way through his career. And I think it's a numbers. Whatever we say about cricket, numbers don't always tell the whole story, do they? But you look at Bicknell's numbers and they do tell the whole story, that this is a guy who was an exceptionally good bowler, exceptionally skillful bowler, who everybody I would have thought who went up against him in terms of county cricket hated facing, because he worked you out so quickly. And as I say, if there was any weakness, Bicknell would find that weakness.
Kirstie, before you come in, just I want to apologise to Martin Bicknell ever so slightly. I read the wrong cell from my Excel spreadsheet. His first class bowling average is actually 24.64. I did him dirty by one run. His list day average 25.21, which again speaks to the consistency of the man. Extraordinary.
Yeah, and I think the only thing that I wanted to add into what you were saying, Churchy, is that Martin Bicknell is a bowler of an era that there weren't data analysts who were giving you all of the information on batsmen, and watching video after video after video and trying to work batters out. He was doing it live in the moment, watching a batter play, a couple of shots and then being right, I've got you out, I've worked you out now. So, you have team meetings now, hours before games and even in the week building up, when you're looking at actually, this is how many times they've been dismissed this way, this is what their triggers are, they stand this guard, they're particularly vulnerable to this type of delivery, that wasn't a thing then, and he's just doing it all.
Kirstie, from your perspective as a keeper as well, someone where you had the degree of certainty where the ball was going to land after it left his hand, what a gift that must be to a wicket keeper.
Oh yeah, absolutely. But it's also a gift and a curse, because then you just kind of switch off, don't you? I know what's coming. So when there is that, nick, then you have to actually be the most switched on player in the team.
Yeah.
Make sure you take your chances.
Yeah, I can only imagine what happened if anyone dropped a nick off Martin Bicknell. As Churchy said, he wasn't renowned for at times his sunny character. We love Bickers, and we wouldn't have any different. And also with the bat as well, Churchy. You talked about Saqlain and his ability. You look at that Surrey side of that era. Obviously the batters we talked about, but then you had down the order, you had Bicknell, you had Saqlain, you had Salisbury. It was the great man Graham Ford. Would always talk about the value of runs scored for number 8 and below. And Martin Bicknell's 6,500 first class runs for Surrey at an average of 25.7 with a best of 141. Just as a player, they're just numbers that sort of beg a belief in the modern game. So we're now here. Thank you everyone who's stuck with us for this long. We're at number 1 on the 25. The player that has been named as the best Surrey player of the 21st century. And if you've been taking notes and catching up, I don't think it's going to be any shock and surprise to you when I announce that player, Mark Ramprakash. Who wants to go first on Rams? Kirstie.
I would like to know how many players have an average of over 100 full stop, but also in consecutive seasons. That's my opening and closing line, I think. That's all from me.
Yeah, I mean his record, I think it is worth just saying what it is. He played 159 first class games for Surrey, 15,837 runs, 68, 6100s. Just to go through what he's done in the 21st century. In 2002, 1,200 runs at 57. That was a bad year for him, by the way. 2003, 1,444 runs at 76, middling. 2004, 1,564 runs at 65. 2005, 1,568 runs at 74. In 2006, 2,278 runs at 103. The following year, 2,000 runs at 101. Then 1,235 runs at 62. Then 1,350 runs at 90. And then he falls off 1,595 runs at 61.
And in every single one of those years that he's listed, from 2003 till 2010, he was the number 1 Surrey batter in the averages. And Churchy, he did it in a year. He started out there. There were championships there at the beginning for him in 2002. A championship in 2002. The T20 in 2003. But for a long time, he really was a shining light, wasn't he? In a team, a couple of different teams that were trying to work out how to win games of cricket.
Yeah, and you mentioned 2006 and 2007 there. He basically scored most of Surrey's runs. Ridiculous numbers from him. First player ever to score 100 against all counties, of course, as well, because he got one for Middlesex against Surrey. And
More than one, I reckon.
He's the last man, I think, and last player that will score 100 first-class hundreds. And it took him a while to get there that season, but he got there at Headingley, of course, famously.
David Wainwright?
It was David Wainwright, and he was using Scott Newman's bat to score that 100. But I think as a technician and a pure batter, I don't think there was anyone better than Ramprakash. And building innings, working out conditions, working out bowlers, and he could get on with it if needs be. But as a pure technician, Ramprakash was the best, I think. And the numbers speak for themselves. And I think anybody who's seen a Mark Ramprakash innings and build an innings, you feel very fortunate to have seen it. Elegant, graceful, had all the shots, and just a magnificent cricketer. And I don't think anyone will argue. I don't think anybody will argue with that one at number one, in the fact that the numbers are ridiculous. Anyone strictly,
and Yaz, we've you can, if you're watching this, you can see the books out on the table in front of us. Actually, 4 more weeks. It's one of my favourite cricket books. Actually, it's the season diary that Ramps wrote. And it's basically the diary of a standing captain, because it was the year that Butcher was club captain and was constantly 4 more weeks away from coming back and pretty much never ended up coming back throughout the season. So Ramps, I guess the reason I say that, it's a brilliant book, and I would recommend anyone trying to dig out a copy of it. You probably get it on Amazon for 30p these days, and give it a read, because it's brilliant and it gives you a real understanding of that era. But what I think is under discussed with Ramps is his cricket brain, his cricket knowledge, because he was never the most natural captain. He never was one of those players that desired that office of state, if you like. He was very, very happy sitting there in the top order, churning runs. But actually, to have him out there as a captain, the presence, the intensity, the nous, the cricket brain he had, I think is something that is not discussed enough because of that sort of lack of a captaincy period.
Yeah, 100%. I just think, again, younger listeners, viewers, listening, watching us might think, well, his England record wasn't as good as some of the other players we've got lower down on this list. But there's a lot of context to be had there. That was a how shall we say it? Less enlightened time, shall we say, in terms of how to manage
well put.
different talents. And sometimes with players, you don't quite crack the top level of international cricket. What you tend to see is their record against the best teams isn't very good, and the lower down the pecking order you get, they do more and more, and you're like, actually, was there just a skill issue? Was there a talent issue? That wasn't true with Ramprakash. Ramprakash played very well against very good teams sometimes, and for whatever reason, it didn't quite work out with England. In 2009, Church, you'll remember that at the very, very end of Ramps's career, there was a lot of talk that even in his late 30s, he might be brought in to play the 5th Ashes Test here. In the end, Jonathan Trott,
the great Ramprakash Trott debate of 2009.
Exactly, and Trott famously makes his debut, scores 100. The rest is history. But Ramprakash
not
was
dissimilar to the Peterson Thorpe debate of 2005, and you say the rest is history on both those occasions.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think English domestic cricket has seen a run scorer like Ramprakash since the war. Yeah,
and also, again, you talk about recruitment and you talk about Alex Stewart and the way he's brought in great players over the years. I think it was Adam Holyoke and Martin Bicknell that in the sort of autumn winter of 2000 realised there was an opportunity for Surrey to stick Ramps on the Northern Line and send him south of the river what an amazing decision that turned out to be. So there we go. Mark Ramprakash, the number one Surrey player of the 21st century. This episode we've been through Saqlain Mushtaq at 5, Rory Burns at 4, Alex Stewart and Graham Thorpe coming together in a joint position at number 3, Martin Bicknell at number 2, and as we said, Mark Ramprakash at number 1. Thanks so much for everyone who's listened, who's watched. It's been brilliant doing this. Really enjoyed it. The top 25 Surrey men's players of the 21st century. There'll be also look out for the 10. The 10 is coming soon. Similar panel, same panel. Mark Church, Yaz Rana, Kirstie White will be taking through the top 10 Surrey women's players of the 21st century as well. That may well have been out already as well. But if you haven't found that, do find that alongside the 25 because there's some great stories to tell there too. But yeah, thank you so much for your time. Thank you, Churchy. Thank you, Yaz. Thank you, Kirstie. Thank you, everyone who's watched this. My name remains Jon Surtees, and this has been the 25.